huge win on Sunday afternoon against the Bucks, and everyone in Boston is now back on the bandwagon. And I don't think you can overreact to one game. And I said after the series against the Pacers that I think this team's going to get to the finals, and I still do. But to look at one game in game one where they played the best game of the season from what everyone said. I didn't see the game, unfortunately. I had to drive back from a club baseball alumni trip. But from what I heard, the ball movement was a lot better. Al Horford had an unbelievable game, took a ton of shots, which is, as I say, every single time. When Al takes the most or the second most shots on this team, that's when they were successful, just like Kevin Garnett back in the day. When you feed Al and you go through Al and you go through Kyrie and Al, that's when this team is at their best. And that was a really positive sign for me. What I saw in that game last night was, number one, that people overreacted, everyone overreacted to game one. And it's hard not to. When the Celtics played that well, when they had already swept the Pacers, and they come off and play like they did in game one, stopping Giannis, the defensive tenacity of not letting him get to the hoop, everyone buying in defensively. I don't know how you can't buy in if you weren't bought in before that game. But it was a predictable bounce back win for the Bucks. The Bucks are a very good basketball team, and I didn't think you have to give them more credit than people are giving them. People gave them after game one, and I still have the Celtics in the series. I think it's gonna be a game 6 or a game 7. I like the Celtics. I like the Celtics against whoever plays in the next series, which would be the Raptors or the 76ers. Hoping for the 76ers because obviously the Celtics have their number, but either way, I think the Celtics are playing good enough right now that they're going to get to the finals. They have too much talent. And I don't think you can overreact to game one. I don't think you can overreact to game two about this basketball team. And when I looked for the key for the series for this team, because the Bucks can win, and the Celtics showed you all year that they can get into stretches where they go one-on-one. There isn't great flow offensively. And I think you saw that again last night. There was times when they moved the ball well, but in the third quarter, when the Bucks went on that 26-2 stretch, there was a lot more dribble drive, one-on-one play. And yes, they moved the ball well at points, and they just didn't make shots. But when you look at when this Celtics team goes bad, it's when they're dribbling the ball too much. And the biggest thing I notice in the key for this series for me is against this very long, very good defensive Bucks team, the Celtics were going way too far into the paint to then make their move. Whether it's going up strong, whether it's kicking it out. Either way, they were getting in too deep. Kyrie had probably one of his worst games in a long time. I think he only had 9 points. A bunch of turnovers going into the paint. Jaylen Brown played well, but still going into the paint too much, getting in too deep, trying to use their body, which works sometimes against some teams. The Bucks are too long to do that. Giannis is too long. And the Bucks do a great job of helping out by packing the paint, but then getting out to shooters and looking for the deflections. And the Celtics had a really hard time playing against that style of defense last night. And I think the key with this Celtics team, if the three is there, you take it. If the three is not there, drive to the hoop, make a quick decision. The pull-up 15-footer is there for this team. And if it's not there, get into the middle of the paint and kick it out. But they're getting too far down in the lane where the length of the Bucks really is bothering this team, and that's where the turnovers happen. You saw it time and time again where it was Kyrie or it was Gordon or it was Rozier or whoever tried to get very deep in the paint. They couldn't go up with it. They tried to kick it out, but the Bucks are too long and they got out to shooters. So credit the Bucks defensively. Credit to the head coach for the Bucks last night in that game plan. Very good defensive game plan. But I think you're going to see the Celtics respond. And I said in the last podcast against the Pacers, and I'll say it again, I think Brad Stevens deserves a ton of credit for how this team has played in the playoffs. Because although they lost again last night, you have to look at what they did in game one and expect they're going to get back to that. And we said it all year with this team. How are they going to come back after a bad loss? Will this team show resiliency time and time again? Will Kyrie Irving say a comment? I think that's over. I think this Celtics team, quote, flipped a switch, as they say, in terms of chemistry issues. And I don't think this bad loss is going to hurt them in this series. Honestly, I think every team needs a bad loss in the playoffs to wake them up. And if not that this team needed to be waking up at all, because they had enough wake-up calls in the regular season to know they have to be locked in. I think that the Celtics right now, how they're playing, take the loss of last night out of it. I think this team is getting to the finals. Obviously, I don't think they're winning the NBA finals. I don't think there's a chance. But I think when you look at the team and you look at how they're coming together, I like what I see. And going into the rest of the series, I want Al Horford to take more shots again. He didn't get enough looks. He played well, but didn't get enough looks in game 2. I need Gordon Hayward having more shots. He was 1 of 5 on Tuesday night. I need Hayward and Al to get the most looks and Kyrie Irving to do what he does. Because for this team to be successful, that is what needs to happen.